Hi guys, this video is in response to a question that's been asked quite a lot in the comments. So the question is, what is the plastic that I use for doing the patterns, templates, things like that? So it's called PE Fibertex Clear. Now I buy it in 50-meter rolls, which is quite long. Most of you won't want 50 meters of it. But I'll put a link in the description of the company that I buy it from. I'm not sure if they sell it by the meter. They sell other things by the meter to the general public. They mainly sell to trade, but they do sell to the general public. So you may be able to get some from this company, or you may find it elsewhere, I'm not sure. I'll cut a little bit off and show you. It's very strong. You can't tear it, you can't stretch it. Unlike other plastics which deform when you pull them. So a standard plastic sheeting, this is just black plastic sheeting that a lot of the products come wrapped up in. With this, if you pull it, it deforms. So the last thing you want is a pattern to deform if you stretch it too much, because then it won't be the correct shape and size that it should be. Whereas this, I can try and pull it as much as I want, and there's no change in the shape or the size of this. It's I'll let you have a close look at it. It's a woven plastic and is incredibly strong and is great for patterning. Now the other things that I use for patterning are, obviously you need a pair of scissors. Any scissors will do as long as they're sharp and they can cut well. Permanent marker, any brand will do. Some brands are better than others, some brands smudge. So you want one that when you write on it and then you put your finger along, it doesn't smudge. I find some smudge more than others. Sharpies aren't great for that. They smudge quite a lot, and the last thing you want is for your lines to be smudged. Also, I use push pins. These are just to keep the plastic in place when I'm doing patterning. So if I'm patterning anything on a board or wood or things like that isn't removable from a vehicle, and I need to take a pattern of it, and it's not something that I can measure. Some things you can measure if they're pretty straight and square, you can measure. But if you've got curves on them or little cutouts or recesses or whatever, they're not a flat measurable shape, then you need to take a pattern. So push pins for that. You can use these kind of notice board pins. Also, on areas that are metal, so door skins of vehicles, I use magnets. So these are neodymium magnets. So they're very strong. They even stick to stainless steel. They're great for on metal areas where you can't use push pins. You can use these magnets on the metal skin of the door when you're patterning. Also, I use a double-sided seaming tape. This is just a double-sided tape. So you stick that down. So you'd stick that onto an area, say if it's a plastic area or fiberglass or something that you can't use a push pin or you can't use a magnet, then I use double-sided seam. This is just seaming tape. I buy this from the same company that I buy the plastic from, and once you've stuck it on, you just release the backing and then it's double-sided. Also, I use upholstery skewers. They're 4-inch long, stainless steel. So these come in a box of 1 gross. A gross is 144. So 144 in the box. They're stainless steel, they don't rust. And these are made in England. So I use the upholstery skewers if I'm patterning foam. So if I've got a piece of foam and it's a shape that can't be measured, it's got a curve or a funny angle on the end, then I will use the upholstery skewers. So they just stick through the plastic and the foam at the same time. And then you can pattern the edge. So that's just the basic things that you need to take a pattern, template, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people call them templates. I just call them patterns. I always have. So if you're patterning, say, door cards or interior trim panels, then you obviously can't remove that from the vehicle. So you need to take a pattern or a template of that. I would use the plastic. So I'll just show you a little example of how I would pattern something in a vehicle. So imagine that this is part of a vehicle interior. Maybe it's a quarter panel, it's got holes for fixings, it's got curves, funny little edges to it, and I need to make a panel like this that goes inside. So I'll cut a piece of plastic bigger than I need, and then if this was metal I would put magnets on and magnet it down, get it in the right position, but because I haven't got, because it's wood, I'll just use some push pins. I'll put push pins in the corners, make sure the plastic is as flat as I can get it. I don't want any wrinkles in the plastic, that'll just create issues with the pattern. So I've got all the corners pinned out and it's flat, so use my very great pen, use my marker pen, and I will just dash in the edges. I don't want to draw full lines, I just want to put little dashes in. If this is a curve, then I put more dashes in. Things like little cutouts like this, I will put the dashes close together. Same with this curve, put the dashes a bit closer together because it's a curve. And then things like these holes for fixings, I'll just find the centre of the hole. I don't want to draw a big circle because that circle might become a bit misshapen. The centre of the hole is the best place to do it, just find the centre of the hole. That's why this plastic is great, because it's transparent enough to see through into things like holes. And the hardest thing is if the panel was black, then the hole would kind of disappear. But most vehicles are not black inside, they're usually grey, especially when you take the panels off. They don't bother painting the whole vehicle, they paint the bits you see. So I'll just check, make sure everything's done. That's everything done, and then I remove the plastic. Once the plastic's removed, bring it onto the bench and I'll start to connect the dots. So connect the dots. So with the ruler I can see whether the lines are straight or not. So if I'd have just put one dash in the corner here and one dash in the corner here of this edge, I would think the line is straight. But using the ruler I can see that it's not as straight as it looked. So I will draw it in as a curve. So this one is pretty straight, so that's a straight line. This one here is probably straight as well, that's a straight line. this one here is straight, and then this is a funny shape, so I'll draw that in. That's straight to there, and then it's a curve, so I'll just fill in the gaps there and draw the curve in. So that's the pattern drawn out. Obviously I've got my holes here, and then with the scissors I'll just cut it out. So at this point I've not finished because I need to double check that the pattern is correct. So again, take it back to the vehicle, place it on, and there we go, everything lines up. So that pattern now can be used as a pattern. So that technique can be used for any part of any vehicle. Doesn't matter whether it's a flat panel, curved, it can be any kind of shape. So when it comes to patterning something like a piece of foam that has got funny cutouts on it, it's not flat anymore, then do a very similar thing. Move this rubber shirt away. Again, a bit of plastic that is bigger than the area that I need. So again, just use the upholstery screws this time through the foam, keeping it as flat as you can. So I will now just trim off the excess. Just makes life a bit easy if you don't have too much to work with. And now I can start patterning this. Now with foam, patterning is a little bit different. If you ever cut a piece of foam or get a piece of foam cut to a certain size, whoever cuts the foam, you need to make sure that you are giving them a slightly bigger measurement than you actually need. Foam will compress under a cover. So say you're making a seat that is 4 foot by 2 foot, you don't want the foam to be cut 4 foot by 2 foot. You want to add a little bit all around. So on a 4 foot cushion, you maybe need 4 foot and half an inch or 4 foot and 3/4. Depends on the type of foam. The harder the foam, the less foam allowance you need. Just like so when you had a seam allowance with cutting foam, you had a foam allowance. So on a medium grade foam, on a cushion that is maybe 2 foot-ish by 4 foot, I would probably add 1/4 inch all round. So you end up 1/2 inch to each measurement. So your 2 foot becomes 2 foot and half an inch, and your 4 foot becomes 4 foot and half an inch. Once you get onto bigger sizes, you need to add a little bit more. Maybe a 6 foot cushion, you would add 1/2 inch to each side on the 6 foot length, just because that foam is going to get pushed in under the pressure of the cover. So when I come to pattern, I will pattern just inside the edge of the foam. So any changes of angle I will mark on, so that gets marked on and that gets marked on. change of angle there. That's my corner, that's my edge. Also, what I forgot to tell you about when you pattern maybe the panel of the interior vehicle, you need to put in the orientation of the panel. So say this panel was that way up in the vehicle and that was towards the front of the vehicle, then you would put in a directional arrow. So a lot of fabrics and some vinyls have a definite direction. So you need to make sure that all the fabric is going in the same direction. Last thing you want is one to be going up and one to be going at 90 degrees to it. A shade change might happen, a grain pattern might be different. So always put in a directional arrow, so an orientation. So there we go, an orientation. That will make sure that when you lay the patterns out to be cut out on fabric, that they all are running exactly the same direction. If they're not, you'll end up with problems. You may not think so, you may think, oh, this vinyl looks the same no matter which way I lay it. Sometimes you're right, but a lot of the times it doesn't. I've made things and not noticed that I've put one piece the wrong way, then a customer spotted it when they've had the vehicle out and they've looked in a certain light and they can see the direction change. Sometimes it can only be seen in sunlight, sometimes it can only be seen in shade, it all varies. So make sure that everything that you cut out runs exactly the same way, and then when it's placed in a vehicle that everything lines up correctly. So again, remove the pins. With the foam, and then I can do the same again. I can join the dots. So again, cut the pattern out. So that's that pattern. I will just draw in this line here. Just dashing it in, not a full line. And the same there. Check the pattern. So that pattern fits. So you can pattern almost anything with the patterning plastic using the same techniques that I've just shown you. I'll leave a link in the description to a few videos where I pattern certain things. So I'll put one that I pattern called car and van seat, one where I pattern a door card, and one where I pattern a convertible top. That may teach you a few more things about patterning. So there you go, that's the patterning plastic that I use and a quick demonstration of how it's used. Hope you found that useful. I hope you learned something from that, and hope to see you again. Thank you for watching. Bye.